Now, the weather is absolutely beautiful, and it's that time of the year where we like to do things outdoors and like to enjoy the weather. However, our furry friends aren't as lucky as we are and cannot actually put layers on and take layers off as if when needed. So in this video, you're going to learn about some top tips to keep your pet cool and want to get involved in the nice weather. It's a really good idea. It's a very smart idea for you to keep an eye for these tips so that you can keep your dog safe. Now, contrary to popular belief, dogs do actually sweat and have sweat glands in their body. However, these sweat glands don't produce enough sweat, as it were, to help them cool. So it's important that you make the effort and you go the extra mile for your dog to be cool. Now, tip number one, and this is something you have heard time and time again, always make sure your dog has access to water. Always make sure water is freely available to your dog. Water is literally a lifeline for your dog. Anytime you buy something for your dog, you will see a little disclaimer either on the front or the back of each packet which will say, make sure fresh water is always readily available for your dog. Why? Because water is so important. Make sure your dog always has access to water. If you go on hikes, for example, or very long walks, make sure you always have access to water and make sure your dog has access to this water on a regular basis. Another thing you can do is keep your house as cool as possible. If you are fortunate enough to have air conditioning, make sure that temperature is right for your dog. If you're not that fortunate to have air conditioning in your house, you can make sure you can provide enough shade for your dog and maybe buy a fan or a ventilator that your dog has access to. It's important as well that your dog has access to shade and cool areas. For example, a lot of houses in the UK will only have carpet in certain areas, but maybe in certain parts of the landing or maybe outside, the carpets are not present. So maybe if there's a tiled area, that could be a very good spot for your dog to keep cool on. Now, number three, and this is something quite logical, avoid exercising your dog during the hottest parts of the day. If you are going to exercise your dog, make sure you wake up early in the morning or you wait until after the sun has set in order for you to take your dog out. And this is something incredibly important, especially with certain dog breeds. If you have a Frenchie, for example, or if you have a Bulldog, these dogs struggle to breathe as it is in normal conditions, and the worst thing you can do is take them out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's really hot outside. This is a recipe for disaster. Also, if your dog is double coated or has a very prominent coat, such as golden retrievers, such as collies, such as German shepherds, all these dogs will struggle under the heat. Remember that dogs suffer and can suffer and do suffer from heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So it's imperative that you keep your dog cool during certain parts of the day. Watch out for things such as excessive panting, drooling, maybe some vomiting, and if you see some early stages of heat stroke, take your dog to see a vet immediately. Do not delay it because it could be life-threatening. Now, number four, you could try buying a cooling mat or a cooling bed, and you can pick these up quite cheaply nowadays from certain big box stores in the UK anyway. You can place this mat anywhere in your house or outside in the garden and your dog will be cooler. Remember that any time the sun is hitting a particular portion of the house, that patch of the house, especially if it's a sun trap like a garden, that could have a detrimental impact on your dog's health. So investing on a cheap cooling mat or cooling bed could be a very smart idea. Also, a paddling pool for kids could be beneficial, but bear in mind that dogs will have sharp claws and could puncture it. Number 5, avoid any tarmac, avoid any hot patches, avoid any hot pavements. Bear in mind that your dog's paws will be quite sensitive at this point, and these are the only point of contact with the outside world, and these hot pavements can actually burn your dog's paws. So make sure you stick to grass surfaces and make sure you stay away from really hot tarmac surfaces. That could be beneficial as well. Number 6, and this one might sound a bit silly, but consider getting an umbrella if you are going on a long walk with your dog. Providing enough shade for your dog could be vital if you're stuck somewhere and your dog doesn't have access to a nice shade. Providing shade will cool down temperatures within your dog and will help your dog cope better with the temperature. And I mean, it doesn't have to be an umbrella. It could just be like some sort of shading structure that you can provide for your dog. But anyway, getting shade or stopping every now and then for your dog to be on the shade could be very beneficial. Number 7, consider a summer groom. Make sure your dog is groomed regularly. A shorter coat and a shorter haircut can benefit your dog and will insulate them from these temperatures. But make sure they are not shaving completely, because the coat is an essential part of your dog, and the fur can also provide isolation from the sun. Number 8, and one of my favorites, provide or try to provide frozen treats. Anything frozen could be an enrichment game and could be a cooling device or item for your dog. You can try to freeze all sorts of things. You can freeze water, you can freeze bone broths, for example, natural bone broths. These are very beneficial for your dog. You can add the ice cubes to the water, or you can provide the bone broth frozen to your dog as well to help them cope with the temperatures. So anything that you can provide that is meaty and lovely for your dog as a treat, as a frozen treat, will definitely enrich their experience. Now, number 9, and this is something that we see time and time again, year after year, and this is something I personally hate anytime I see it on the news. Make sure, and please, do not leave your dog in the car when it's really warm outside and you leave the dog for long periods of time. If you must leave your dog in the car, make sure the window is rolled down and you don't leave your pet there for long. Cars can be sun traps and can be a deathbed for your dog. So if you can avoid leaving your dog in your car, that will be amazing. Always remember that leaving your dog in your car can lead to heat stroke and even death. So please, please, please do not do it. Always make sure you plan your day accordingly, and always make sure your dog has free access to open air and shade. And keeping a dog in a car with high temperatures outside is not a very smart decision, so please don't do it. Number 10, you can plan outdoor activities in a smart way. So instead of taking the dog on a 3-mile hike in the middle of the day, how about taking your dog to the river for a swim, or how about taking your dog to a lake so the dog can have access to water? Always make sure that the activities during the summer are centered around water and the access to water and shade. If you keep an eye on water and shade, you will be well ahead of the curve when it comes to keeping your pet cool. And number 11, keep your dog well groomed. If your dog is matted, make sure you brush their coat on a regular basis, and always make sure that air can flow freely in the coat. If your dog's coat is tangled up, that can have a detrimental impact because it can be a bit of a heat trap and could cause discomfort to your dog. So making sure your dog's coat is silky and lovely and well brushed can definitely help. So those have been some really useful tips and some things you can do to keep your pet cool during this summer. If you do something else, I would love to hear how you do it and what you do it, so please pin your comments down below and let's all learn together. I hope you got value from this video. If you have, please consider liking and subscribing to the video, and I will see you in the next one.